Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to the News Bulletin at 8, brought to you by our number one news provider, Eswatini TV. I am Nondomiso Vilagati alongside Nomakabiso Nkambule. First, let us take a look at today's headlines. The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku has appreciated the country's ex-servicemen for displayed sense of duty and heroism by taking part in the Second World War. The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says the recent storm might have created an extensive damage in most households, but government will try all her best to reach out and assist affected families. The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mancoba Khumalo, says the proposed Citizens Economic Empowerment Bill is aimed at promoting and protecting locally owned businesses. The news. The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says the recent storm might have created an extensive damage in most households, but government will try all her best to reach out and assist affected families. The Deputy Prime Minister was in company of the National Disaster Management Agency when touring affected areas at Madonsa and Maliatuma.
The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku and members from the National Disaster Management Agency, which is under the Deputy Prime Minister's office, toured the Madonsa area where some homesteads were damaged by the recent storm on Friday and had their roofing removed. The National Disaster Management Agency was busy with assessment all weekend and donating tents for temporary use to homesteads that were affected. The journey continued to Maliatuma under the Kukanyen constituency, where they visited a certain Dlamini homestead, which had its roofing damaged by the storm as well. This is also a child-headed family that is struggling to make ends meet. The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says, with the numbers of the damage increasing, government will do what she can to respond to the needs of people that were affected by the storm. They visited Madonsa because even areas in urban settlements were also not spared from the storm on Friday.
Minister bataba banenge kuleli viki letako kusukela msombuluko si-assesse lesimo sibone ke ukuthi yini uhulumende la ngahlangabeta bani ngako ngithi nje ngiligcizelele lelo kakusicali ke lokwenteka nje vele uhulumende uyetame nangabe sekunemonakalo lonje nalabo labalimele kakhulu kepha siyagcizelela nje ukuthi kuba nesigaba talokwenta lokho lapha vele kungenalutho khona mhlambe siyesitama ecala khona lapha mhlambe kungami khona noma lo sebentako naye sitawucela ukuthi kulelo line eme ngemuva khona kutobonakala ukuthi kusitakala laba nje laba
Masuku says he was touched hearing that there were learners whose future is being geoschools, which can result to girls falling pregnant while seated at home. The National Disaster Management Agency CEO Russell Dlamini says they are still conducting assessments. As of now, the number of damage of homesteads stands at about 2,500. He says they have donated with temporary tents to avoid further damage to property, but after further assessment, government is yet to buy material and give to the most needy and affected families.
They are getting more intense due to climate change. La khaya lesikhona kulo-ke vele bashayeke kakhulu ngalokho ukuthi la mathayela onke abhobokile afuna ashintshwe yonke la ndlini.
The DPM then donated corrugated iron, food and blankets to the Dlamini family at Maliatuma. The journey then proceeded to Luve under the Mkiweni constituency. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi, Maliatuma.
The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku has appreciated the country's ex-servicemen for displayed sense of duty and heroism by taking part in the Second World War. The Deputy Premier was speaking during a press conference held at the Deputy Prime Minister's offices on Thursday in commemoration of the World's Veterans Day.
Every 11th of November, countries under Commonwealth commemorates the World Veterans Day or the World Ex-Servicemen Day in honor of those who took part in the Second World War. Speaking during a press conference held at his offices, the Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku appreciated the country's ex-servicemen on displayed sense of duty. The Deputy Premier says the world peace is owed to them.
On behalf of His Majesty's government, may I take this opportunity to appreciate all ex-servicemen for having served during these world wars on behalf of the country. You are indeed an inspiration to us all. We honor the courage and sacrifice you displayed, this sense of duty and responsibility to have fought and achieved the peace that we have always enjoyed over the years. Subsequently, these ex-servicemen or war veterans were accorded heroism status and received by Commonwealth statutes as well as their own countries, as we see in the Constitution of the Kingdom of Eswatini of 2005 and the National Social Development Policy of 2012. Traditionally, the observation of this important day in the country is undertaken at the Bethany Army Headquarters, where a number of stakeholders attend and participate. These usually include the King's Office, government ministries, civil society, and the ex-servicemen, their wives, widows, of course, their families.
Masuku further affirmed the country's commitment in taking care of the remaining 3 war veterans. According to the United Nations, only 2% of the reporting for Eswatini TV News. I'm Samkel Suekoza with Fumiko Sinsinisa Mpapane.
The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mancoba Khumalo, says the proposed Citizens Economic Empowerment Bill is aimed at the promotion and protection of locally owned businesses. The minister was speaking at Codec on Thursday, where the ministry was presenting the bill to the ministry's portfolio committee at the House of Assembly.
On Thursday, the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade presented before the Ministry's Portfolio Committee at the House of Assembly the proposed Citizens Economic Empowerment Bill. Speaking during the meeting, the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mancoba Khumalo, said the bill will see the promotion and protection of Emaswati-owned businesses.
Citizens Economic Empowerment Bill. Le bill lena ibuke ukuthi emaswati emtsamo singawafikela njani kubusiness kuze ukuthi lapho ukhanza khona ukuthi sebenganywa abantu bekuhamba bangasakhona ukuphefumula sibanike lawo ma protections ibhili ke lebese lo sisinze itobukane ukuthi ngumaphi ema incentives lesingabaniketa mhlawumbe amabhizinisi abantu bemtsamo kubukane ukuthi ekulawo mabhizinisi abantu bomtsamo singanda njani ukuthi emabhizinisi abomake athole equal chances namabhizinisi abantu labasha bathole mhlambe amathuba lafana nabo nekubuka nje ukuthi siwasekela njani lawo mabhizinisi ukuze ukuthi noma amabhizinisi lamakhulu athenga lokho labakuthengako bathi labancane ukuthi noma sinesenga kakhulu kepha singakhona lokuthi mhlawumbe sithole support letside.
Chairperson of the Ministry's Portfolio Committee at the House of Assembly, Norman Ngobo, says the bill will help solve some of the existing challenges faced by local businesses.
Ikakhulu ngoba somabhizinisi bemaswati bebasolo bakhala ukuthi bona abakakhona ukuvikeleka ikakhulu emithethweni eminingi ukhanza ukuthi nema-chiefs nebekuhamba bayathengisa naloko bayakwenda manje ke sizama lo ukuthi sikhankanya lowo mthetho leyo ukuthi ibasite laba
including the Standards and Quality Bill, among others. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Fuminko Sinsinisa Eswatini.
The House of Senators recommended that fire and emergency staff members be trained with the Royal Eswatini Police Service under the proposed Fire, Rescue and Emergency Bill. This was said by the Deputy Senate President Ndumiso Mdluli during a Senators' workshop hosted by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development on the emergency bill at Eswatini Farm Lodge.
Last week, the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Prince Melane, presented before the House of Senate the proposed Fire, Rescue and Emergency Bill of 2020. On Thursday, the ministry held a workshop capacitating senators on the same bill. Chairperson of the ministry's portfolio committee at the House of Senate, Isaac Makagula, explained the importance of the bill.
King's Order and Council of 1975 wakhanza lo mthetho loyo awusahambisani nesikhathi sanyalo ikakhulu nje lokuvele ukuthi bekude ukuthi lo msebenzi abona wenda ngokurescueisha sekunaleyo definition nawo seyini seyisinyalo Eswatini National Rescue Emergency Service sekunebekile kunengi nokusebenza kwabo sifata usebenza njani ngoba na usawakho umthetho uyaxola uhambe niuxola lapha.
Senate Deputy President Ndumiso Mdluli says the House of Senate proposed some recommendations for the ministry.
Timbonga ke tiqhamuke nesincomo sokuthi uma lama officers akafaya noma umuntu maka ato train angena training timbonga ke tincomelo ukuthi bekungaba kahle ukuthi uma kutrainwa laba labatawusebenza kafaya ba trainwe kanye a police college.
During the tabling of the bill, the minister said the country will see numerous construction of fire stations across the country. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Sontom Langeni at Eswatini.
In a bid to help small and medium enterprises in Eswatini to list in stock exchange, the Small Enterprises Development Company has signed a memorandum of understanding with Eswatini Stock Exchange. According to SEDCO CEO Kethiwe Mhlanga, information of how they can list their businesses.
The signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between Eswatini Stock Exchange and SEDCO entails that small-medium entrepreneurs will be able to access finance. According to SEDCO CEO, Kethiwe Mhlanga says entrepreneurs will be provided with trainings on stock exchange.
With Eswatini Stock Exchange. The Memorandum of Understanding environment whereby SMEs through the listing with Eswatini Stock Exchange will improve their performance, will ensure that the stimulation of investment will enable SMEs to expand when it comes to their businesses, and they must graduate to become large enterprises. And ensuring, of course, that our own Eswatini Stock Exchange is vibrant.
Eswatini Stock Exchange CEO Ncamiso Njalinjali says the partnership will allow the company to align itself to the needs of the SMEs in the country.
The future of this country, Madam CEO, lies in the health of our SMEs. We do need to capacitate and create an enabling environment to allow them to thrive. And this collaboration goes beyond and will indeed achieve that. We do need to work together with policymakers to address all kinds of challenges, and then as a stock exchange to find ways to make it affordable. There are tax incentives that more developed entities or economies rather play in, but those tax incentives do not just necessarily come. We have to encourage our policymakers. We have to demonstrate to them the need for such incentives and how they impact and affect our small and medium enterprises to be the...
There are a number of companies that are listed in the stock exchange in Eswatini, such as Nedbank, among other companies. For Eswatini TV News, Sontom Langeni, with Vuminko Sinzinisa in Mbabane.
In a bid to highlight the current state of knowledge on groundwater in Africa, the Kingdom of Eswatini is part of the SADC Groundwater Conference. According to Water Affairs Geophysics Musa Wenkosi says the conference seeks to find scientific ways of ensuring sustainability of the groundwater in southern African countries, including Eswatini.
The Kingdom of Eswatini, through the Department of Water Affairs, joins other SADC countries in the ongoing 4th SADC Groundwater Conference. The theme for water systems thinking. Musa Wenkosi, who is the geophysicist in the Department of Water Affairs, explains the key areas that are deliberated on.
We are actually mainly exchanging knowledge, technological skills on groundwater management, and also future predictions and projections of availability of groundwater. Also note that groundwater is a very delicate resource which is easy to exploit to some extent, also very easy to pollute, but to restore its quality might be a challenge in most instances, mainly because when it gets polluted, it's not physically but chemically. So normally to cleanse it back to its pure nature or quality state, it is a daunting task, and you require some extensive equipment that you might not have. For instance, say you find groundwater with high salinity levels. To actually make the groundwater to be within consumptive state, you need quite a substantial amount of money for those technologies to apply, and that will be at a local level, which imagine if you were to be treating all water resources in terms of groundwater, wherever it is, that is purifying it to its original condition. It might be a costly exercise, and the capacity in terms of skill to run those cleansing equipment, it might not be easy. That will be my sort of like take. So mainly we also, it helps us as a region to know, because as you know, water and geology do not know what you call your political boundaries. So you may find that water that is polluted the other side of the country flows into the country, and then we are in trouble. So we need to know what's happening on the other side of the country.
The country has over 10 groundwater monitoring stations. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Babane.
Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority advises all industry players that the licensing for liquefied petroleum gas has commenced. According to Consumer and Stakeholders Management Officer Thandwa Inkosi Dlamini, existing LPG industry players have been provided with 6 months grace period.
The Regulatory Authority has advised industry players trading under liquefied petroleum gas that the licensing process for all existing and new participants has commenced. According to Thandwa Inkosi Dlamini, the Consumer and Stakeholders Management Officer, says the LPG legislation has been developed that will ensure a seamless licensing of the LPG.
The authority conducted multiple consultations with the industry stakeholders, including the business people in the LPG industry in the country, to develop guidelines, licensing guidelines that would then be effected as the authority conducts the licensing process for LPG in the country. So following those activities, on the 1st of October, the authority then opened up to receiving licenses from industry players. Maybe I can also just explain briefly about the types of licenses in this particular industry. So in the LPG industry, we have a wholesale license, which is for a business person or for an LPG business operation that imports the product or the liquid petroleum gas into the country. And then that business is called a wholesaler and will need a wholesale license. And then the second type of license is called a retail license, which is basically now the retailer or the business that will sell the LPG product to the end user or the final consumer, which this business will need a retail license.
Dlamini says all licensing guidelines and application forms for all LPG categories are accessible from ISERA website. For Eswatini, TV News Sondomlangeni in Babane.
Junior Achievement and Enactors have signed an MOU where the two organizations have partnered in benefiting the youth and ensuring that the after-school youth does not lose talent and focus after completing high school and sometimes having to start afresh with businesses at tertiary level. The MOU signing was held at the Enactors offices in Babane.
Junior Achievement Eswatini has signed a memorandum of understanding with Enactors, where the organizations have partnered in developing youth talent and skills from high school level till tertiary, where most junior achievement learners have to start afresh upon completing high school when it comes to business knowledge at tertiary level. This memorandum of understanding seeks to trace and keep up with them from high school, some with their businesses, so that they do not have to start afresh from scratch at tertiary level. Enactors Country Director Wandaboy Kumalo welcomes this partnership.
The results and taking advantage and optimizing partnerships. So partnerships really, and Enactors, the two organizations are coming to join hands today. We are hoping and we're expecting for a greater impact.
Junior Achievement Director Petsile Masilela says this will strengthen partnership between the two organizations and a fruitful working relationship in the future.
Being part of the Enactors program when they are in tertiary is an achievement for us. So we would also have to promote that program before they leave. What we would do in JA is we will support the Enactors program by providing the database of the students that have completed our program, because when they are in Form 5, that is when we document as to which college have they applied to. So they do keep us posted in terms of saying, Nyalo, so we tertiary structure.
This MOU has already seen fruits of about a 2-year working relationship between the two organizations. For Eswatini TV News, I am Kian MCB, Babane.
Welcome back. You are still watching Eswatini TV, and for your sports news tonight, the Minister for Sports, Harris Bulunga, says football is the right tool that can be used to bring peace in the country. Bulunga is, however, urging clubs and supporters to shy away from violence, as this will destroy the beautiful game of football. Bulunga was speaking during the official launch of the MTN Premier League 2021-22 season at MTN Eswatini headquarters in Eswatini. The package for the season is worth 6 million emalangeni.
We are here at Eswatini MTN headquarters, where the main event was the launch of the 2021-2022 MTN Premier League season. The title sponsor MTN, together with the Premier League, they have announced that the new sponsorship of this season is going to equal 6 million emalangeni for both the Premier League and the National First Division. Different guests were part of the event. Most importantly, the Minister for Sports, Harris Bulunga, who encouraged supporters to not condemn violence. The minister went on to highlight that football has the potential of bringing peace, whatever kind of peace that is needed in the country.
I now take this moment to encourage all football stakeholders to work together in harmony and in the true spirit of the game to deliver a football season to remember, be it in administration, on the field, officiation, in media coverage, and in the stands. I encourage each and every one of us to bring our A game over the next few months, delivering a product that will long live in our memories. As our country prepares for a national dialogue, as announced by His Majesty King Mswati III, sport and football in particular has a big role to play in helping to rebuild our country, recover and foster unity amongst our people.
The National Football Association President Peter Simbelane highlighted that the recent performance of the national team Sihlangu Semnigati is the good results of the the consistent and the positive results of the Premier League. He went on to say that if this season is the best, it's going to be also the best for the national team Sihlangu Semnigati.
We are delighted that through your renewed investment for an extended period, our football teams, including the national team, continues to perform better at national and international level.
In simple words, the Premier League of Eswatini chairman Mark Carmichael was just thanking the title sponsor for once again putting in this huge injection of amount of money to support local football.
For MTN to be a partner of this wonderful sport for so many years is truly a gift from the man above.
MTN Eswatini Chief Executive Officer Wandile Mjari also highlighted that he is thanking His Majesty's government for once again allowing supporters, as this also will bring back to their investment they have been putting in for quite some time now. The two main companies, being MTN Eswatini and the Premier League of Eswatini, went on to sign the contract that will endorse and will ensure that the season indeed goes accordingly. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, Zuluini.
Royal Leopards Public Relations Officer Frank Uhurube says they are partly to be blamed for the recent incident that occurred at Mavuso Sports Center last weekend during the open match of the 2021-2022 season when Leopard faced Mbabane Swallows. Uhurube says the club is currently taking serious measures on the issue and the public will get to know soon.
During the kickoff of the MTN Premier League games last week Saturday, where the titanic clash was between defending champions Red Leopard and Mbabane Swallows, an incident occurred with Red Leopard head coach Edwin Matsebura having a disagreement on the pitch with the Mbabane Swallows player. Public Relations Officer Frank Uhurube says as a club, they are partially to be blamed for what happened. Uhurube says there is an in-house keeping that is currently being conducted pertaining on the event, and soon the public will be informed on the decision of the club. Sandy Lezwane from Mbabane Swallows says whatever the case might be on the matter, as a club they're urging supporters not to react, rather allow the law to take its course. Minister of Sports, the National Football Association and the Premier League have all called and sensitized the issue of not condemning violence.
That is all we had for tonight, but before we wrap up, let us again take a look at today's headlines. The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku has appreciated the country's ex-servicemen for displayed sense of duty and heroism by taking part in the Second World War. The Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says the recent storm might have created an extensive damage in Mosul. Help best to reach out and assist affected families. The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mancoba Khumalo, says the proposed Citizens Economic Empowerment Bill is aimed at promoting and protecting locally owned businesses. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin tonight. Up next is the weather forecast for selected towns. Good night, Eswatini.